5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello humans, this is Retro Rocket Man. I have this Hulk figure. It has a lot of potential to turn into, of all things, Batman. Inspired by the Frank Miller version. Very heavy set, muscular Batman with quite exaggerated features. He's an older version of Batman. I think he first appeared in the Dark Knight graphic novel by Frank Miller, Year One. Is quite distinctive, different from other versions of Batman. So when I saw this Hulk figure, I could see a lot of similarities in the general body shape. So that got my brain thinking, and I thought I could give it a go and transform him into my version of Frank Miller's Batman. So I've started off by sketching the design down by copying the Hulk figure to give me a better idea of what he might look like. This process will help me visualize how to go about transforming the Hulk into Batman. So here we have a untouched version of the Hulk, and then another one that I did a while ago now, where I've just basically touched him up with some shoe polish and eyeshadow to bring out all the definitions in the sculpt, and I like the way it turned out. So this is starting from scratch with the new one. I'm going to roughly sketch out where I'm going to make the changes. Places like having to sculpt a cowl and mask on the head. This will give me an idea of where I could take the putty to, and what can stay and what will have to go as far as making him look like Batman. And also obviously a rough guide where to put the Bat logo on his chest. I intend to have this as a quite prominent sculpted feature to make it stand out and make a much more dramatic statement. This is just a rough. I later discovered that I drew the head and the ears too large compared to the wings, but I'll alter that as I go. And also just roughly lining in where the gloves would come up to on his arms. All this will help me when I start the actual sculpting. And the same process is repeated on the legs too, just to see where the top of the boots would be and what changes I'll need to make to his trousers, his pants, because you can see they're sculpted to look tattered and torn, so I'll have to modify that as well, cover that up when I start the sculpting process. So the next step is to start grinding away at the areas that I need to modify, and I'm using a Dremel-like tool with a grinding wheel, a sandpaper wheel on it, and it's going to just smooth down a lot of the hair, sculpted hair, that I obviously need to cover up because he'll be wearing his mask. And this is a bit of a scary process, but obviously with the later addition of putty over the top should hide all this. Doesn't need to be perfect because it will be covered with putty anyway. His waistline has a sculpted torn area where he's obviously, when he's transformed from Bruce Banner into the Hulk, he's torn his jeans or his pants. I don't know who wears purple jeans, so who wears purple pants for that matter, but it's comic book accurate, so that's what they went for. So I'm just grinding that back, smoothing it down, because I intend to sculpt the Bat utility belt over the top. I just wanted to make it an easier process without having to worry about bits of plastic poking through. I've just changed the head of the tool to do a little bit more finer work. Try and reduce the amount of hand sanding that I'm going to have to do down the track. Now I'm using this is the putty. It's a 2-part epoxy putty called Milliput. It's made in England. Basically, you need 2 parts together to get a soft plasticine-like material or feel to it. And it can be quite sticky, and the trick is to use a bit of water. That helps the stickiness, reduces the stickiness, and also helps in the moulding process to smooth it out. You have a lead time of about 3 hours before it begins to harden properly, although as you go along you can feel it firming up, but it still gives you plenty of time to work on your sculpt and get things just right. Naturally, with the need to do more intricate work, you need to use some sculpting tools just to blend in the putty to the plastic, and then using water to finish it off. And this process is quite lengthy and involved, depending on obviously the work that has to be done, but still quite gratifying and enjoyable. It's quite a nice product, the Milliput. It wasn't cheap. It was about $20 Australian for roughly, I think it was 100 grams, thereabouts. 113.4 grams to be exact. I nearly used the entire amount on this sculpt. I had a little bit left over. And sculpting the Bat logo, as you can see, it's going to finish quite proud of the plastic, so it's going to have a relief to it. This will make it more prominent and stand out more. Again, a little bit fiddly, but the tools and the water definitely helps. Just patching up the torn pants to make them more like pants as opposed to Hulk's pants. So just patching the knees. As you can see, I've already done the gloves, but it's just a simple process of rolling a snake or a worm of the putty and then blending it in. Similar process on the belt. Just making a band around his waist, which I'll then sculpt into pockets and buckles. Using the water again to smooth it out helps a great deal. And there's been a fair bit of time between some of these processes because given that it takes 3 to 5 hours to cure hard, some of this some of these processes have been like the next day, because once you get something to an acceptable level, and you've got to handle the figures so much, you don't want to damage the other areas you've already worked on in case while you're still handling it, because then you have to do some repair work. So it's easier just to let it cure and then work on it the next day or later on down the track. So much like the process I used on the gloves, I'm creating the boot cuff, smoothing it out, blending it into the leg, not sculpting an entire boot. I'm still retaining a lot of the original sculpt, hard plastic sculpt, and this should all blend when painted, and it will look like he's wearing boots and gloves. Naturally, I'll have to do something with his bare toes. I have to cover those up, make him look more like he's wearing a boot. Again, just using the sculpting tool to do the more intricate blending. It helps to reduce the amount of sanding you have to do. Anyway, that's the end of part one. Because this is quite an involved process, I decided to split this video into two parts, and the second part will feature the painting process and obviously the final reveal, the end result. So that video will be posted soon, so keep an eye out for that, guys. So this is Retro Rocket Man, and I will see you in the next one. Over and out.